about half 3. So we're going to meet our guests now, and that's John O'Shea and Michael McCarthy. So we're just going to pop down now and get the views of what these two gentlemen have to say and what way they think the game itself is going to go. Perfect. A big thank you to the management and staff here at Treasure Palace Hotel. John, first of all, what way do you see the game going on this coming Sunday?
Look at Stevie, this is the grand final on Sunday. I suppose the final that both teams are waiting for since the start of the championship. I suppose hoping to be in the decider, but eventually did get there. 2 weeks ago, Clare on the Saturday there, I suppose, against a lot of the odds there. Maybe some people fancied Kilkenny to go through, but in the end of the day, Clare got through and they're in their first All-Ireland there since.
They got through, I suppose, Michael, really from their second half performance.
Yeah, Stevie, they were 5 points down at half time, not playing well, and really picked it up in the second half and had a storming last 10-15 minutes of the second half and came out on top to qualify, as John was just about to say, for their first final since 2013.
But to be fair, Michael, Clare cannot put in a performance in the final like they did in the first half in the semi-final against Kilkenny.
No, Stevie, and I don't think Clare can perform like they have since the Cork game in the Munster Championship, because I feel that they just didn't perform up to standard, albeit getting the results, I will have to say, but I thought they were very lacklustre, especially in the Tipperary game. They won by 3 points, but it wasn't a convincing performance at all. Their quarter-final victory over Wexford, the same. Wexford down to 14 men, and Clare came out on top in that. And I suppose as we said then in the All-Ireland semi-final, very, very lacklustre first half, but a lot better in the second half. And I suppose when they did get on top, it was when we saw Tony Kelly, and he will be pivotal, I think, to Clare if they are to win at the weekend.
Michael, there's no hiding place now for any player on the Clare team. We'll concentrate on Clare for a moment, then we'll go to Cork. But for the Clare boys, it's a case of get out there, perform to the best of your ability, and hopefully that will get them over the line. I would imagine that will be the case.
Yeah, it sure is. I mean, look, All-Ireland finals. The pressure that comes with it is you have to be used to it. I suppose you have to get a feel for it. And Cork would have been there in 21 and would have had a lot of those players still around. And there's probably a lot of pressure on Clare. I know the last time we were on before the semi-finals when TJ Connolly was with us, I was saying that progress for Clare would be making the All-Ireland final, and regardless of the result. But now I've revised that because Limerick aren't in the final, and I'm not sure not winning at the weekend for Clare would be seen as progress, because they wouldn't have seen Cork, I would think, as huge rivals. You know, Limerick was the team that they had in their sights. Kilkenny, even losing to Kilkenny the last 2 years, I think they always thought that they were marginally better than them, and that was the Munster campaign that took it out of them in the All-Ireland semi-final. But now, I suppose they'll be going in against a Cork team. Now, funnily enough, Cork are favourites, 8 to 11 favourites going into the game, which I think is a little bit on the. I wouldn't agree with too much. I think Clare are in with a right chance, and 8 to 1 the draw is a huge result, I think, this weekend.
John, I'm going to go back to you if I could for a moment. Cork and Limerick in the semi-final. That was a pure humdinger of a semi-final, with Cork coming through in the end.
Yeah, that was a humdinger. That was as good a match as we have seen in a long, long time. It had everything, you know. I think what was it, 28, 29, 58 scores, and I don't know, maybe I think there was about 99 shots or something. 99 shots on goals. Like, that's a phenomenal amount of shots. Like in a 75-minute game, Stevie. You know, it had everything from the start, and you know Limerick still could have got over the line in the finish, but they didn't.
More clinical they could have.
Correct, but they didn't. And Cork are there on merit, and Cork have beaten Limerick twice this year. Clare have fallen to Limerick twice this year. They met in round 2 in Páirc Kiev back in whenever it was there, the April, I think, or the first Sunday in May, and there was 2 points in it in the finish, in a very, very high scoring game again. And you know, that all bodes well for the game on Sunday, because Cork went down by 2 points in a huge high scoring game that day. It was 3-something each, wasn't it?
326, 324.
Yeah, I mean that was 56 goals and 50 points again, like huge scores. Now if we get something like that on Sunday, we'll be in for a rip-roaring contest. It's there to be won, as you said. There's no moral victories, especially for Clare now. As Mike said, they would have set Limerick in their sights. Limerick aren't there now, so they had to adapt after that, take on Cork, and. Anything bar a win, I think, for Clare on Sunday won't satisfy the fans anymore because, they had these moral victories over 2 great Munster finals. They would have felt that they were the second best team in Ireland for the last 2 years.
So is that saying that there's going to be extra pressure really on the Clare team and especially the management?
I think so. Now, I said it the last day, some of us said it, that there was going to be pressure on Brian Lohan if he didn't get over the line. Now, he came out after in this interview and he said after the game, he could have taken off 6 or 7 at half time. But it's very easy to say that when you have got through to the final. Like, would he have said it had they been pipped by a point? I don't think so. And people would have been calling for his head. The fact that he didn't make changes.
Well, going on the first half performance, they certainly wouldn't.
And like go back again, if they play like that against Cork, there's no guarantee that Quilligan will be as good against Cork as he was against Kilkenny. And I suppose the other side of the coin is there is no guarantee that Collins will pull out the same thing. So it's a huge game for goalkeepers as well. But I think at the end of the day, I think there's more pressure on Clare because of their, not only on their performances this year, but on their performances for the last 2 years. When Clare fans themselves probably reckon that they were the second best team in Ireland.
Michael, you and I have spoken at length about goalkeepers, the importance of their puckouts. It's not about their shot stopping really, their puckouts are crucial, isn't it? So we're back at it now again, and this is the final, so we won't be in you anymore about keepers.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, both goalkeepers could rightly be proud of their performance in the semi-final, and I suppose I certainly said it before about Collins being under pressure in Cork, but he had a brilliant semi-final. Ivor Quilligan, of course, in the first half was excellent for Clare and kept them in the game and kept that deficit at 5 points. But then he spilled one in the second half, and I just have a feeling with Quilligan that when the pressure comes on, that he's liable to make a mistake more so than.
A little bit jittery at times.
Yeah, and that's it. And I mean, that's going on since, I suppose, Ennis there in the first round of last year's championship when Tip got those goals, and I think like 3 of them were potentially Ivor Quilligan's fault, and he was dropped. He came back in after Foodie was dropped, but he made mistakes as well. But he was dropped going into that game because of mistakes he had made during the league and so on. So look, I suppose he did keep them in the first half of the game against Kilkenny, and they'll be hoping that he'll repeat that performance. But yeah, as regards to puck outs, Cork went long lots and lots of time against Limerick. I suppose in a very
Limerick pushed up.
Yeah, and it was but I would say it was a tactic that was borne out down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh in the third round game, where they targeted the kind of the left side of the field as Collins was looking down at it, the kind of Diarmuid Burns and to Hannon's right, and did that again very notably in the semi-final. Almost kept Kyle Hayes out of the game, and Declan Dalton went to the sideline and didn't move off it, and it was a long puck out of Collins, who has a serious slap on the ball.
Of course, that was a tactical move, anyway, wasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
It was indeed. John, do you think that there's going to be any changes to either team? I'd say they'll nearly go with the same 15, perhaps, in the semis.
Yeah, it's looking like that anyway. We won't know that probably until tomorrow night, but there's very, very few changes, I would say, coming into it, because like both sets of players, both teams in the second half especially, they finished well against their respective teams in the semi-finals. Look, I spoke during the year about it, and I thought there was pressure on Clare's defence, noticeably John Conlon in the centre and Conor Cleary at full back. And I think they will be really, really tested on Sunday with the Cork attack, because the Cork attack, they're probably one of the few teams now that are playing nearly 6 forwards and 3 inside that stay inside. And defences are finding it hard to cope with them. Limerick certainly did, and there's no doubt about it in the Páirc Uí Chaoimh game and in the Croke Park game. Limerick found that hard to cope with. Now, I think will they put, if they put that pressure on Clare, it's going to be very, very, very interesting.
Do you think that could happen, Michael?
Yeah, well, I do think that Cork. I think that's their game. They play the six up top. I think Shane Barrett is. He's a guy for me who's in hurler of the year contention, and he has been excellent for Cork from centre forward. Conlon, as we've said, he doesn't tend to mark the centre forward. He tends to drop back. I thought he has been a lot better in the two games since the Munster final. Thought he was very good finishing up, especially against Kilkenny the last day. So a lot will depend on. I think John is right as regards the changes to the team. If there was a change, I think it would only be on the Clare team, and that might see Ryan Taylor, who had a big influence on the game when he came back from injury the last day, coming in. But I would say if you were to look at negatives after the semi-final, I don't think there's anyone putting any pressure on the Cork 15, and they played so well in the semi-final that there would be no one pressing in training over the last 2 weeks. Whereas I would imagine, considering Lohan's comments after that, Clare's training was skin and hair flying, where the likes of Rory Hayes, Paul Flanagan were looking to come into the full backline. Maybe Ryan Taylor, who seemingly had been flying before that and certainly looked very good in the semi-final, that they were really pushing for places. Darragh Lohan, who had played a lot of the games so far in the championship, looking to come in as well. So I think from that point of view, the Clare lads, their training, they'll be on edge, whereas maybe the Cork lads were a little bit more comfortable knowing that they were going to start.
Yeah, I think that when you're passing comments will say like that, from a management perspective, you're going to be careful of the words that you chose, because like you could be feeding into the opposition, couldn't you, John?
Yeah, certainly. But I think, at this stage now, Pat Ryan isn't going to worry about. They're where they are. They got back into the championship that night in the Páirc Uí Chaoimh, and they've driven on since that. Clare, on the other hand, came through the Munster final, lost it again, 3 Munster finals, but got back on it again, and they are where they are, Stevie. And I don't think either manager will be worrying about what's said about about the team selection or whatever, because it's only 2 weeks since the final. But you know what? I think you're going to have somebody. There's somebody going to have one hell of a game in this final, and so that's we've seen that over the last couple of years. And somebody always comes out in a final and really puts up. Sure, remember, go back to 2013. Was it the replay? Shane O'Donnell. I mean, he was 19 at that stage. That's 11 years ago. And he came out unheard tell of as such, and he's a name that's on everybody's lips since that. We've seen it so many times in All Ireland finals, and maybe the guy that we are expecting it off of, it just doesn't show up. But it's going to be very, very interesting with Patrick Horgan. Now he's going into that final now. What is he? 4 points behind TJ Reid in the all-time scoring honours.
He's not going to be thinking that.
He's not at all. And I mean, I saw him the last day. Was it remember when he missed the first free? He actually.
No, but he could be thinking.
But he had actually a laugh to himself about it. And I think that went to Hawkeye. But he knew that ball was gone wide, and he was a sort of, and it didn't knock a flake out of him.
But he's probably thinking to himself, this could be his last chance of an All Ireland.
Oh, he probably is. There's no doubt about it. And he's around so long, and Harnedy as well.
Yeah, you're dead right, Stevie. I mean, for Horgan, and look, we're not going to be putting him in the grave yet. No. But I mean, in hurling terms, but
it's just so hard to reach a final.
Yeah, it is, and I mean, look, Patrick Horgan is hurling for Cork since 2008. He could potentially come out of Sunday the top scorer in the championship this year, the top scorer of all time in the GA, and win his first Celtic Cross, which would be a huge achievement, and I suppose end Cork's famine of 19 years without an All Ireland final. But on the other side,
that's going to be added pressure, though, Mike.
I suppose it is. It probably is a bit of added pressure for the likes of Horgan and Seamus Harnedy, who have been around that setup for so long, and they've put their life's work into trying to win an All Ireland with Cork. But I suppose for some of the new lads, this is, I suppose, a little bit of a novelty to a certain extent. They'll enjoy the build up, I would imagine. Of course, they'll be nervous on the day. But on the other side of it, Claire, our Shane O'Donnell in interviews during the year has kind of said that this potentially could be his last year. He has other ideas about his life and his work and the stuff that he wants. Yeah, he works in London and he travels home for training at the moment. But he actually said that he'd love to go to become an astronaut and stuff like that. And I mean, by all accounts, he's a highly intelligent guy, and probably feels that his hurling career has held back his professional career to a certain extent, and wants to have a look at that. So for Shane, and of course he's there. This is his 11th year in a Clare jersey. It's a lot of time spent training, and we know the demands of intercounty training at the moment.
It's going to be difficult enough one, I suppose, really to call. I think myself Cork should be victorious, John, in conclusion.
Look, I'm going to stick with Cork. I thought Limerick would beat him the last day. They didn't, but on the basis of the two games and what we have seen this year, the form to me would point towards Cork. But look, in an All-Ireland final, a lot of things, the form can go out the window, the present form, and it probably what will happen on the day. But I think Cork have potentially more match winners than Clare, and maybe if O'Donnell there wants to become an astronaut, I think he'll probably have to move out of Clare to become one, so it might be his last chance of winning an All-Ireland,
As Buff Egan says, to the moon. And I don't know whether Shane O'Donnell is going to the moon or where he's going, but however, it's all happening on this coming Sunday, 3:30 in Croke Park. John O'Shea, Michael McCarthy from Cashel Palace Hotel. Go raibh míle maith agat.